It's a long way from Sonoma to Sebring, but thankfully in the virtual world, it's an easy skip and a hop from the west coast to east. The skips and hops that won't be easy are the bumps that come with racing here. Get your setup tuned in and maybe turn down the force feedback a hair as we get ready to watch round 6 of the Porsche Owners Club Series. You'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Rouse Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Porsche has lots of history here, so let's get a quick glance at what makes Sebring so special with our track guide. Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course. Well, for Joey and I, this is going to be pretty familiar territory, and we know from firsthand experience, this is a pretty good racetrack for Porsche racing.
Absolutely. Here in Sebring, Florida, 3.74 miles and 17 turns of some of the bumpiest racetrack you'll ever drive on, and a couple big areas. I know that turn 3, 4, and 5 when we were there a couple weeks ago was a very busy area, but look towards the hairpin. Turn number 7, that's where a lot of the passes are going to go down. Towards turn number 10 is also a good passing opportunity, especially if you're able to get your competitor off the line back there in turn number 7. Turn 13, Tower Turn, is very bumpy out there, and you got to be able to roll the speed through it. And then turn 16, it is always low grip, and it almost seems like it kind of falls away from you on exit, and it's so important to get that exit as it leads you down the Ullman Straight. And don't forget about turn number 17, Sunset Bend, one of the most iconic turns in all of motorsport. It's also one of the bumpiest turns in all of motorsport. You better be fast in, you better ride the bumps through the middle, and you better be able to get on the gas coming out of it.
It will be a challenge, no doubt about that. Now, for our drivers, part of what makes this happen every week is our sponsors, which includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Contact them today at TopGunMG.com. That's TopGunMG.com. Now, for our standings, Andrew Chinichi is leading the way, and it's not quite a full win's worth ahead, but it is a healthy lead at this stage in the championship. We'll see if BJ Fulton can bounce back after he had a poor result last time out and had a DNF this season. Now, Chad Duncan, not too far behind him, has been rather consistent. Mark Rondeau only a single point back, and same thing with Dustin Heindel there in 5th. So 3rd, 4th, 5th, all going to be a very tough fight here. Goes all the way down to Mayorga down in 10th, 42 points behind the leader. Not the biggest of gaps, even though we're almost halfway through. That, of course, is the GT1 standings. Let's take a look at the GT2, which is the Caymans here, Joey.
Yeah, racing those Cayman cars, and right now it's Federico Del Toro with a 14-point advantage over Christopher Marciniak. Rob Russell there in 3rd place with Larry Haas in 4th. Only 2 points separating Larry and Sam Mayorga back here in 4th and 5th place. We've also got John Momeyer and Matt Hollander tied for what is 6th place right now. Daniel Viverco, Adam Abrams, and also James Baxter are all drivers that have competed here. And looks like we got a few familiar names. I see Federico out there in practice right now, as well as Rob, Abrams, Marciniak. Looks like we've got about 6 of those GT4 cars out here today.
Should give us a good show in that class. Now, as for the race itself, if you're not familiar with this series, it's going to be a 40-minute event. So they've lengthened it compared to previous seasons. And it is 2 classes this time, the Porsche GTE and the Porsche GT4. They have 2 spare cars in case they do get into trouble, which can be pretty common at Sebring. You can wind up getting some damage and needing to take that. And to help them out with that, they will have a scheduled pit stop in this race now for this series. So look out for that as well, because that could play a part over the course and who gets the victory, as it definitely has caught a few out in terms of how much fuel they tend to put in. But we're in qualifying at the moment, and Dylan Scott is actually on the provisional pole ahead of BJ Fulton. Andrew Chinichi just getting back home after being out at Spring Mountain in Nevada is going to try and get back up to speed here, but is only 3rd currently.
And I want to point something out. Look at the top 5, only separated by about 0.3 of a second. The gaps between, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, incredibly close. Only a couple hundredths of a second separating each one of those drivers there. And these 911 chassis-based cars, these RSR cars out here. So pretty close in terms of the competitive field up front.
It's not close in the Caymans, so Del Toro's a full second ahead of Rob Russell right now. He's got a handy gap, and it's only 2 minutes left. It takes about 2 minutes to get around here, more than 2 minutes if you're in the GT4 cars. So this is it. It's just about end of the line now for most of them out there. There is Del Toro bringing that 27 out and around through Tower Turn. Should get, it looks like he has enough time to start one more lap. So he'll at least get one more try in this, but now he's got Doug Bacchignon right behind him.
Make his way through, what is this? Turn 15, this little left-hander, and then around turn 16 here. I had always mentioned this is such a low grip corner, and it's got just a tiny bit of elevation at the apex, so it kind of feels like it falls away from you on exit. And the Ullman straight, the back straightaway here, quite long. And yeah, I think you're right. I think he's already trying to set up what is turn 17 here, get a nice slingshot, get a nice exit out, and probably start a final qualifying lap.
Does look like he's on a decent amount of time for this one. Doesn't look like it's going to improve, but as I say that, he heads into the pits, so he is indeed done. Again, he sits very comfortable right now, so unless someone has a massive bit of improvement, we probably won't see him toppled. But Andrew Chinichi starts his final flying lap. He's got about a 1/4 of a second to catch Dylan Scott, who is not on the circuit, nor is BJ Fulton. There is an open goal ahead of that 97.
Did a nice job using up all of that exit curb coming out of turn number 5. Really try to get this car accelerating down to what is turn number 7 here, nice and on the brakes, and roll it over those apex curbs, square off that exit. Once again, stand on the gas here down towards turn number 10. This is another big brake zone here. Got to make sure you spot those cones on the left side, jump on those brakes, and roll it through here. And manage the rear tires as you once again stand on the gas up into Tower Turn.
I think the last one able to start a lap here is going to be Dustin Heindel, and then Schulem should be the first one to take the checkered flag now that we've gotten down to 0. We still right on board with Chinichi. Mark Rondeau, who you mentioned was very close to him, is still out there as well, able to try and set one more time so he could take that 3rd place away from Andrew if he doesn't improve. Coming on to the backstretch, the Ullman straight here. He is on it, foot to the floor. Now he just has to try and nail this 180-degree turn.
Pole position right now is a 157.335. All that Andrew Chinichi has to do is beat his best time by about a 1/4 of a second, but he is in way too deep into turn number 17. He abandons the lap.
It's A bit of a shame there right at the end. So now we've got Jad Duncan. It looks like Michael Bolton, and I think that's it, able to complete their laps at the end of this qualifying. Duncan sitting in 6th, Bolton in 7th. So will that swap around at the last call? Coming up into Le Mans, that critical corner exit that you were talking about looks tidy to me, right up to the exit. What's it going to be when he gets to the line?
And remember, 157.33, that's the provisional pole. Jad Duncan's best time so far, a 157.919. So even if he improves just by a couple tenths of a second, he is going to jump up a few positions. He's looking good through turn number 17. Let's see if he beats that 57.91 that he has done. 58.01, so just barely slower.
It was right up against it. Bolton crosses. He doesn't improve either. That is it for our qualifying then as he chucks the car into turn 1, knowing that all is done with that session. Okay. Well, fascinating beginning to this one with the qualifying for sure, and a decently sized field as well, which is good to see with a large track like this, as the drivers will be able to keep each other company. And let's not forget, they've got that mixed class racing, which can always be its own problems out there at Sebring International Raceway. We'll let that clock tick down to 0, then we'll go through our starting order. I'm kind of curious if Federico can bring it home today with the win. I'm checking, and last time he did that was round 3, actually.
Yeah, been a little bit of a slump in terms of finding the top step of the podium for that gray and red Cayman back there in that GT4 class. But I think you pointed out something that was nice for him in qualifying. He's got 1 second plus on everybody else in that class. So I think as long as he can kind of concentrate on not faltering at the beginning of this race, all he's got to do is go out there and turn consistent laps that he knows he's capable of. He might be able to come away with a win today.
Yeah, I think that's really going to be the goal for him. As for Scott, Fulton, Shinichi, I think that's going to be an outright battle for that win in the GTE cars. Looks like we're ready for our grid now, so we'll go through our Cup car or our GTE cars. I'm used to different Porsches now. Dylan Scott starts on the pole as BJ Fulton starts from 2nd. Then Andrew Shinichi will be in 3rd. Mark Rondeau, remember, not too far behind in qualifying. He could be in the mix too from 4th, as Dustin Heindel will start in 5th. Then it's Jad Duncan starting 6th today. He's got Michael Bolton on the inside of the next row in 7th. Robert Leclerc will be starting in 8th. And then row 5 sees Jonathan Kuo in 9th and Doug Bocchignon in 10th. Daniel Viverko is then at the top of our next slide there in 11th. Jeffrey Shulam will be starting 12th, and James Baxter 13th. Jim Garamani rounds out your GTE cars at 14th. What about our GT4s, Joey?
Yeah, Federico Del Toro, we were talking about him. He is your pole sitter in the number 27 car. Lined up next to him on the front row in 2nd place is going to be Rob Russell. Row number 2 is going to be Adam Abrams in 3rd place with John Momeyer in 4th. And then row number 3 for those Caymans will be Christopher Marciniak in 5th and Larry Haas in 6th.
Already the pace car is underway, and it's a very short pace lap here, just a little bit down the Ullman Straight. Then they're going to be released on to the front stretch. There you can see under the bridge at Sunset Bend, giving control over to Dylan Scott. What's this race going to look like for him? Could he claim a victory as they trundle their way towards the start line? Green flag is out. It's not a good start for Dylan Scott. Already looking around the outside of him, BJ Fulton has a nose ahead. Can't quite chop down quite yet. 3 wide maybe for the lead. Yeah, Andrew Shinichi goes inside both of them. He gets 1 and he gets 2 as a spin for Scott has thrown him into the barrier.
Yeah, that was an intense start. Shinichi was able to sneak down the inside. I think we got one of the Cayman GT4s turned around as well. Rob Russell, unfortunately, went for a ride on the exit of turn number 1, but Federico Del Toro hangs on to the lead in that class.
Brave stuff from Shinichi to slide it down the inside, 3 wide on the first corner of the race. Still got some battle in a little farther back here in the pack. Ooh, and we're going to have some contact, unfortunately, as the 15 gets turned. James Baxter takes evasive action. He'll be able to carry on. And now the Caymans come upon all this action and have to scatter.
Oh, my goodness. I think that's Momeyer back there that just got completely balked by Jeffrey Shulam, who was just trying to exit the racetrack. And you're right, it is chaos here for the Cayman GT4s. Adam Abrams going to take a look into turn number 10. Federico Del Toro closes the door.
Oof, very close. Del Toro would probably appreciate a little bit more of a calmer first lap so he can get this race underway. He still leads, but as you can see, he is being hunted for it by Abrams there. That is Chris Marciniak in behind in third as we check in on Dustin Heindel. Down to fourth for him as Mark Rondeau gets promoted up to third because of Dylan Scott's spin.
Down the Ullman straight for the first time, and I mean, we're not even done with lap one. We got turn number 17, Sunset Bend here. Let's see how they get down through the bumps. This is Viverco trying to overtake Bacchignone, and looks like it's going to be, it's Robert Leclerc with Daniel Viverco there through 17.
Yeah, so Rob's going to take that position away. He's in that bright pink Simpsons car. The Campbell car is Viverco, who's poking his nose a little left and right, maybe looking to the inside into turn one, but not quite there. It was right up against the wall for Leclerc, and instead it was right up against the dirt for Viverco, who has to lift.
Yeah, got a little wide. Uh-oh, we got problems back here in the Cayman GT4s. I think that was Rob Russell and Larry Haas tangling in what was turn number 17, and you kind of see the front end damage on one of those Cayman GT4 cars. They both get going back on the racetrack, but you got to wonder if there's any sort of steering damage.
Not a good way to start things because it's a ways before we get to the pit window opening up. Michael Bolton, this is he and Jad Duncan trying to tussle for a top 5 position. Michael's close enough. He could try and be aggressive down into Cunningham, but he decides not to and will stay in line. Not seeing a whole lot of separation here on this second lap in this front group in spite of that spin we had early on.
I think the surprising part is Chinichi taking off because it was so closely packed. Let's check out what happened here at the beginning of the Cayman GT4 start. Oh, yeah, Rob just got loose on the exit of turn number 1. Joe, that looked like cold tires to me.
I agree. I think just car was not quite where he wanted it this time. Oh, Bolton's off course.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I'm not sure where, Joe. I'm going to try to go and find it.
I think he had an internet connection problem and pulled off the racetrack. This is interesting because he was just off to the side, but while Joey is looking for that, Dustin Heindel is still in this fight with Mark Rondeau for a podium position right up behind him, coming up through Sunset Bend. But they'll separate for a brief moment. Rondeau still holding on to that third place.
And I think I was able to kind of find what happened back there, and he actually made a little bit of a mistake, spun the car, and then coupled with an internet connection issue, a double whammy, if you will, Joe.
Yeah, maybe he decided it wasn't worth trying to risk somebody else's race if he was having a hard time out there. Heindel wanting to get onto the podium positions, now has Jad Duncan getting awful close behind him. Jonathan Kuo, bit of a newcomer to this series. Also not doing too shabby. Up 3 positions since the start of the race into 6th.
So this battle of the Hot Wheels car versus the Cookie Monster versus the black and yellow neon of Jad Duncan here. And yeah, like you said, Jonathan Kuo not too far behind either. That's that 4th car, call it the caboose on the train right now. So all the pressure is on Mark Rondeau. Heindel took a little bit of a look down the inside of turn number 10, but Rondeau was very confident on the brakes.
Trying to keep him thinking and guessing up there. Yeah, if ever there was evidence that we're all just big kids out here, Rondeau and Heindel, I think, are very much evidence of that. Coming up into Bishop, things separate for a brief moment. So here's what happened with Shulam. Just got tipped to the side. Oh, and that barrier was right there, jutting out where they had an access road. And unfortunately, that meant a really big hit for him.
And like we saw, just the Cayman GT4 class was already right there. So if you have problems on the opening lap, you better be ready because chaos can definitely happen. So Rondo still holding off Heindel for right now. Let's see about through turn number 17. Rondo maybe a little bit wide there on Apex, gets pushed wide, but now it's Heindel that struggles on exit. So kind of 1 for 1. They stay even through the corner.
Yeah, since we touched on it, just want to give mention that Del Toro is still our leader down in the Caymans and is up to about 4.5 seconds ahead. But this is the closer battle, although here comes Dylan Scott on a charge back through. He's caught up Jim Garamani, makes easy work of him coming down into turn 1. That's 11th.
And I think that Dylan Scott has got a lightweight version of this RSR. Joe, you notice I don't think he's got a front bumper, a front hood. He's at least still got fenders on it.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite spec, but remember, he does have those 2 spare cars, so it'll likely be in a little bit more better running condition once he takes his pit stop. Wouldn't be surprised then if he comes in for an early stop on this race. We're about 7 minutes into it, so we should be reaching that pit window soon for him. That next car in front, that is James Baxter in the 8 machine. And let's see what the last laps look like between them, because it looks like 2 flat 7 for Baxter, Scott 2 flat 2. So even with the damage, Scott's still pulling some decent speed.
And to your point, I think all he's trying to do is make it to the very, very beginning of that pit window being open. So as soon as it is, right, he's going to come down pit road, fill it up with fuel, and grab a brand new car, right? But there's no point in coming down pit road before that pit window is open, because then you'll simply have to come down again.
Exactly. They only have a maximum fuel cell size here in the sim, which can be set custom in leagues like this, although this would be interesting to see between Jad Duncan and Dustin Heindel. He was on the attack, now he's on the defense. Duncan round the outside, but he can't quite find the grip and keep the momentum coming the long way around. But down into turn 1, he'll have a nice toe. If he tries to stick his nose, then he could have a good shot here. Nope, he's not going to give it a second try.
He slid just a little bit wide at the apex of turn number 17, but we're going to have to see if maybe this lap he's once again fast on that other side of the racetrack, because through Le Mans and down the Ullman straight, he was just able to use that slipstream and really pull up alongside Dustin Heindel. And Dustin now actually does a really good job through that 3-4-5 complex to kind of gap himself away from Jad Duncan, at least from a lunging distance here in 7.
Yeah, that was a good rebound, without a doubt. Rob Russell, in the meantime, in the 12, tries to defend, but gets a bit snookered, at least it looks like at first. And they make contact, and off they both go.
I think that was a little bit earlier in the race, because we saw them turned around in turn 17 on those first couple opening laps. So between running to the back of the RSRs on the opening lap and then having their own skirmish themselves, the Caymans are busy.
They are, and I think that was Larry Haas that had that contact through Sunset Bend in that orange and black machine. So excellent work here from Heindel to recover, trying to see if he can catch back up to Rondeau, who he was battling with before. But the little side-by-side action we saw between himself and Jad has meant that Kuo is now suddenly much, much closer.
Yeah, and Jad Duncan in the black and yellow car got a pretty poor exit right there out of turn number 16, was just a little bit wide and kind of also a little bit loose, hanging the tail out. So Jonathan Kuo here that we're riding on board with was able to close it in, and really aggressive, really deep on the brakes. He's out way wide in 17. That's going to cost him some time.
At least he kept it out of the barrier. That's really job one in that situation, and get the car to the finish. But he's still got time. Could still see something happen out here, especially if he can get within range, although missing the apex through turn 1, again, won't help.
So the 3 in front are starting to compress, which is exactly what Jonathan wants, right? If they start to battle it out, they'll probably lose a little bit of time in a corner. And actually, just as I say that, Dustin Heindel has a very poor turn number 5. So Jad Duncan, the car directly in front of us, A nice little run down towards the turn 7 hairpin. He's going to present the car. I think he's about 2 car lengths back, maybe just a little bit too far back to make that move.
Not going to work this time. Dustin Heindel definitely sent it in deep to try and cover that off, and that maybe cost him a tenth or so coming through the safety pin. Now into the braking of Cunningham. Still that yellow and black machine hangs on tough to try and take away this 4th place. We got a replay with Dylan Scott here, trying to go by Baxter. Does he actually get this pass done? Looks like up into Cunningham. He shows himself, and there it is.
Nicely done. And that car has definitely seen better days, but he's doing a nice job trying to recover from that early little incident that he had. So, like we were talking about, once that pit window opens, we expect him to dive right down on in there and get a brand new car. So Jad Duncan trying to square off turn number 16, and hey, check this one out. He does a really good job. He's right in the slipstream of Heindel.
Dustin knows it. He goes to the inside, but he leaves enough of a door open that the foot is through. Now can he get the rest of the way over the threshold? Jad Duncan has the desired inside line. If he gets the throttle down, he's got the job done, and indeed he does, as it was close on the outside for Heindel, nearly scraping the tire barrier.
Let's see if Heindel tries to do something here in turn 1. He's close enough. He's going to dive towards the apex. Room is given from Jad Duncan, but now Dustin is going to have the preferred line going into turn 3, but Jad was just able to edge ahead going into that brake zone. Nicely defended. Jad hangs on to 4th.
It's a good battle between those two. Unfortunately for Kuo behind him, he said he needed to be nice and close to them to make it a fight. He was not there. So he might get another try, though, here. Look at this. Coming back at him once again, Dustin Heindel forcing Jad Duncan to have to get defensive. They're going to make contact. Off the course goes Dustin. Kuo's going to sneak by. Leclerc is going to sneak by. And what was a hope for 1 position was a loss of 2 in the end.
I'm sure that Heindel is going to be a little bit frustrated about that one. Jad Duncan made his car very wide in turn number 7, and everybody defends a little bit differently, but I'm sure that's 2 opposing views from 2 different drivers right there.
Always you must leave the space, I believe, is the quote.
You must always leave the space.
Yes. Oh, Alonso has left us with some good ones. Yeah, although it was a bit late for him to move over to that left-hand side, so I can't blame Duncan too much for kind of going back to the racing line.
So, it was a little late on the other move, but does that make it fair to also move in the brake zone?
Good point. Good point. Yeah, that'd be something for the stewards to look at. That's really a better job suited to them. As we check in with John Momeyer, I have to actually see if Momeyer's ever had a podium in this season, because right now he's sitting in 3rd, and he's got about 10 seconds or so down to Rob Russell. So he's in one of the best positions we've seen him in all season long. Adam Abrams, in fact, is only about a second in front of him.
Correct. He's just right up the road here. So the 2 red Caymans, those are the GT4 cars. That is Adam Abrams and then John Momeyer and the ASU-themed Cayman here that we're focused on. And this is a really good comeback drive, because remember, this corner right here on lap number 1, John Momeyer was completely balked by one of those RSR cars and pretty much had to come to a complete stop. So right now he's actually right on the back of Adam Abrams. I wonder what happened to Adam right there, but no move going down into turn number 10.
Yeah, I'm not seeing actually a podium at any point in the career of POC for John Momeyer, no matter which class he's been racing in. So this could be a first for him in the end. There's James Baxter up on the right hand of your screen in the picture. Maybe not just a 3rd place, maybe a 2nd place here for John Momeyer. The Arizona State car is unfortunately going to get rebuffed for now, as Abrams is not willing to give it up quite yet, but he's making a right go of it. John is not going to settle just for a first podium. He wants more.
Ooh, got really loose there in turn number 16 to John Momeyer, and some quick hands probably saved that car from going around on a complete spin. So he loses a ton of time in terms of track position, but I think he was able to see when he was able to go up there and pressure Adam Abrams. Adam was actually kind of struggling to hit all of those apexes perfectly, and it almost looked like the pass was going to be given to Momeyer, so he's just got to go back, get up there in that rearview mirror again.
Here's where things get interesting. That's our overall leader, so they're being lapped now, which means they'll probably be lapped at least one more time during this race by the GTE cars. And Shinichi has enough of a gap that he's not really needing to push the issue too much here. It's about 4.5 seconds to BJ Fulton in P2 in his class.
And you saw Adam Abrams leave plenty of space there in turn number 3 for the overall leader. And this, I think, will get interesting with the rest of the field, right? There's BJ Fulton in second place. A little bit of a lonely race. He's about 4.5 seconds behind Shinichi and about 5.5 seconds in front of the next car in line, which was Mark Rondeau, that number 11 Hot Wheels-themed machine. So BJ doing a good job staying consistent, just a little bit lonely, if you will.
Yeah, as I mentioned, he had that DNF last time that meant he only got a single point for showing up. And then in the opening round, he only scored 2 points. I need to see exactly where he wound up finishing in that race. Other than that, Fulton's had 3 second places, still been looking for his first win of the season. But when he actually is keeping out of trouble, he has some pretty good results out here. It just needs to keep up that consistency.
Here is Mark Rondeau sitting in third place right now. He's going to have a bunch of traffic directly in front of him with those Cayman cars. Jad Duncan has actually closed it in a little bit this lap. It was a little bit of a bigger gap between third and fourth place, but you see that black and yellow car of Jad Duncan also bringing in Jonathan Kua. We've been waiting for him to join the party as well, and what better time than going through traffic?
Should give him some chances. Has the right amount of speed to easily dispose of one Cayman, but I'm not sure about the second. He's going to go for it anyways. Wow, that was brave stuff. And that slowed down Rondeau. No, maybe that was too brave. He sent it in extremely deep, just about hit the wall.
That was as deep as you can get it on the brakes without impacting that tire barrier on the left side. Jonathan Kuo is now on driver's right. Jad Duncan, I expect to send it into turn 1, but he gets the door shut at apex. As John Momeyer here in the Caymans is just getting swamped as he's trying to make the move on Adam Abrams.
Dustin Heindel flashing his lights, making sure they know that he's coming along because, yeah, this is for position between the two of them. Yes, they don't want to interrupt, but he's got his own people to chase up there.
Yeah, and Abrams very wide through turn number 5. So Momeyer has an opportunity looking down towards turn number 7. He's about 1 car length back right here. Does he pop out driver's right? He's still closing in the slipstream. Presents the car. Abrams very deep, though, and is still able to get the car stopped at apex.
I'm seeing that Bacchignon and Dylan Scott have both taken their pit stops now. Michael Bolton has been in for a long time, so I think that was him dealing with some damage at some point. But we're getting drivers that are now finally using the opportunity about halfway through this race to take their fuel, get back out there. Meanwhile, battle for P2 on your screen in the GT4s. Going to be interrupted, at least briefly here, by Viverco.
Faster class car going around the outside there. Maybe Momeyer losing just a little bit of time as you kind of made a power move around the outside. The other one that caught my eye, because you mentioned pit stops, Joe, Dylan Scott made his pit stop and has a brand new car. The only car faster than him on the racetrack is our overall leader. So an early stop, we're going to see where he's going to kind of pop out once the cycles are through.
It's about 24 seconds, which is significantly longer than Bacchignon's.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if that was a fuel thing that, again, just failed to realize how much he needed to put in there. Regardless, like you said, he's very, very fast, so I think he's going to be making up some time, but it's kind of been a series of errors, it seems, at the start of this one for the 08.
Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer, and I definitely see that too on my timing and scoring. Let's see what happened to Larry Haas. Oh, the bumps in turn number 1. Huge tank slapper. Does he jump on the brakes? Nice job there to stop the car from impacting the wall. I think he got on the gas and hit it anyways.
Oh no, that's a little embarrassing. But yeah, before that, it was a very good job because that could have been a lot worse
I,
with the
I,
way it
I
spits
think
you
he
out.
I think he just saw that other group of RSRs coming down the road and he wanted to get off the racetrack. So I understand what
Absolutely.
he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was the right call. He had clear track, might as well get it out of the way. Just maybe was a little too eager in the process. Chad Duncan still sitting in fifth position after his attempt at dealing with traffic kind of fails on him. He's got Leclerc back there who's dropped off, but still has not been able to get by Kuo. And then ahead of him, that is a lapped car of Jeffrey Schulem. So that's not for position.
So Kuo's kind of the meat in the sandwich right now, but an interesting sandwich because, like you said, Schulem directly in front is a lap down. I probably expect him to maybe give way to Kuo as Kuo almost gets into the back of him right there in turn number 16. I'm sure that Jonathan did not appreciate that because now look at the run that Chad Duncan has, and we know he loves to send it into 17.
He's going to use this opportunity if it's available. This time, though, this one's for position, not just getting by traffic. He does send it in deep. This time, he makes the corner, and that'll put him back into fourth. And this is all just to get back to Rondeau, who's still up the road by about 2 seconds. But, I mean, considering how much he had to make some passes and deal with all this, he hasn't lost too much time to that Hot Wheels car.
Crucially, no, but they're all so similar in pace. I think that trying to reel it in, it's going to take a few laps. The traffic can definitely help that, or maybe go up there and turn a really fast lap so it shows up in the relative, and maybe it'll kind of distract them a little bit, take them off the apex of something, maybe force them into a mistake. But either way, 1.9 seconds now between Rondeau and Duncan.
With 17 minutes left on the clock as well. When are we got to get another taker down on pit lane? Eventually that pit window will close up. I don't think this track is particularly thirsty, but the laps are long, so it shouldn't be a very wide pit window. As we check in on Del Toro, we said he needed to kind of run away a little bit. I'd say he's done that. It's 14 seconds to Abrams now.
Pretty impressive. And, you know, the Caymans are only on lap 11 themselves. So we're seeing on the top of the screen one of the Caymans in pit lane right here. That's Christopher Marciniak taking his pit stop right now. So he'll get filled up with fuel to make it to the end. And yeah, Federico's just doing a tremendous job. I said that they're done 11 laps and a 19-second gap. I mean, do the math yourself. That's almost 2 seconds per lap.
Marciniak, the main driver he's worried about right now, because Chris is the one second in the points, and it was about 14 points between them, I believe, coming into today's race. So Del Toro wants to continue to rack up those wins. He's only had the one. Otherwise, he's been in second place, and it's been more about just trying to take those victories when they present themselves, since we seem to get drivers that come in and are suddenly fast, and to deny him that chance. Leclerc also pitting in. So our latest to take fuel has to wait a while before he gets down to that pit stall and tries to spot his marker. Is it going to be clean? Yes, looks like he's got it nice.
And the data points that we got, Doug Bacchignone did 10.7 seconds stationary in that pit stall. I'll keep my eye on what Leclerc does. And a little bit of a longer stop for him, 12.9 seconds stationary, as we watch Jonathan Kuo still chasing Chad Duncan. And here was that car that I was just mentioning, Doug Bacchignone, was that only other car that has completed that pit stop cycle.
Drivers can do their own calculations, but iRacing also has a crew chief that you can kind of set to either aggressively try to underfuel, or maybe be a little bit more safer with that. So maybe Doug was just willing to take a little bit more of a risk here with those 10 seconds compared to those around him. And that could wind up paying dividends from what we've seen, because some of these battles have been costly in terms of time. If he can make the pass in in strategy instead of on the track itself, that could be a big advantage.
Those are always the easiest passes to make, right? The virtual pass where you don't actually have to get up alongside and outbrake somebody. It's just all done via strategy and the pit stops. It's always fun, too, when you kind of are the one that leapfrogs everybody and just kind of go,
You feel like a little bit of a genius for a moment. And Doug Bacchignone is hoping that maybe he'll feel like that. Oh, Kuo with a massive wreck coming down at a Sunset Bend. Was it just getting loose on the way in? Because it was strange to see him hit that inside wall.
That's exactly what happened. He just got too loose. I'm sure that he had heavy brake pedal pressure there at that point in turn number 17. He got loose and impacted that driver's right wall.
Well, again, it'll just be lost time essentially for the spin because he's right by pit entry. So he probably limped it in immediately and is going to take that spare car. Yeah, wow, it snapped as soon as he turned that car in.
You make an excellent point, though. As long as he was able to kind of bounce off of the tires here, grab a gear, it's going to be minimal time loss because he just drove it right into pit lane. And I expect him to grab that brand new car. And yeah, it's a quick 10.2 second stop right now for Jonathan Kuo, and he's back out on the racetrack.
Boy, that safety net really worked out well for him. He'll emerge in 7th. That'll be behind Leclerc, who I want to say Leclerc was behind him before the pit stop. So it looks like he may have lost that position.
Yes, he definitely did, which, he wrecked it in turn 17, where I shouldn't be too surprised, right? Definitely a time loss. However, Leclerc was actually one of those cars that was right on the end of that 4-car battle, so I don't think that Jonathan lost too much, just a couple positions per se.
I think that sounds about right. We're watching Kuo come up to our GT4 leader here, Federico Del Toro. Definitely doesn't want to hold him up. John Momeyer is now in. Del Toro still needs to pit. Larry Haas needs to pit, but Abrams just finished his. Momeyer is in long, very long compared to others. He's up to 21 seconds. The Caymans are mostly doing, it looks like 13 to 16 seconds.
Yeah, and he's still there stationary now, 30 seconds stationary. So I wonder if he maybe forgot to click that fast repair, and the crew has hopped over the wall and trying to make those repairs themselves. As I think I see our overall leader, Andrew Chinichi, has also come down pit road, and he is done with his cycle, 11 seconds stationary on fuel for him.
So I checked on my end, and part of the problem is Momeyer missed his pit stall massively. He had to back up a long ways and get back into position. So, yeah, a minute 23 cone to cone. Compare that to Abrams, 40 seconds.
That's a tough one, especially when Momeyer was kind of threatening for second place even. He was doing a good job there in third place, but he was right on the back of Abrams for the majority of this race. A frustrating one for sure.
So we're just waiting on Jad Duncan to take his pit stop, at least in the GTE cars. Haas and Del Toro, except make that just Haas now. Del Toro just came in. There he is on your screens. As far as Chinichi goes, decent stop, 11.1 seconds in there, but my eyes are on BJ Fulton's pit stop, 9.8 seconds. That is the easily quickest stop we've had all race so far.
You got to wonder if there's enough gas in there to make it all the way to the end. And in my opinion, there is no real need to kind of gamble on that. He's got plenty of gap between himself and Mark Rondeau, which was the closest car behind, as Dylan Scott has officially caught Doug Bacchignone. And remember, Dylan started on pole, had that early incident, now finally has that brand new car, and he continues to be one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. That last lap time, a 158.4. Compare that to Doug Bacchignone in front of him, a 201.4.
So the time lost, it seems, on that first lap was somewhere around 40 seconds, because that's how far behind Chinichi he is at this stage. It's given Bacchignone quite a hassle. He is all over that rear diffuser and can't quite find a way by coming up into Bishop. He'll show himself down into Jean Debienne. and maybe scares him off the apex slightly, but it's not doing anything yet. Maybe there is where he can make something stick. Coming onto the Ullman straight, both of them getting a little bit squirrely off the corner.
Yeah, but crucially, Dylan's closing it in now on the back half. Does he present the car? He's going to send it into turn 17, way deep on the brakes. Let's just make sure he keeps control of it and can still hit the apex. Nicely executed.
There you go. That'll give him 9th place now, and everybody else is pitted. Chad Duncan just finished his pit stop. Holy cow, 8.9 seconds for Chad Duncan. Woo! So he's now the driver that is pushing it the most in terms of fuel. Who is going to be able to get to the finish line? There's not really much elevation change to speak of here, so it's all flat. That said, you are doing a 180-degree turn at the end of it, so carrying your speed, if you start to run out of fuel, can be a little bit difficult to coast to the line. But Duncan here in 4th place, just behind Mark Rondeau, I believe made up some of the time that he lost after he was trying to chase him back with his failed traffic navigation.
I think so. I think that maybe it was just a little bit bigger of a gap before they came in. But remember, this was kind of that mid-pack fight, right? That 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th place fight, and they were just all scrapping amongst themselves. Mark Rondeau was doing a nice job to try to run away from it, but Jad was always kind of nipping at the heels right there. And like you said, an 8.9 second stop was able to close that in a little bit more to Rondeau.
Pride's on the line for this one. Larry Haas pitting in. He hasn't done his yet. So he was our last driver that we needed to see take his fuel and get back out there. Boy, he went a long time too, compared to a lot of his other rivals, which will actually give second back to Rob Russell, I think, if I'm seeing right. And Momeyer's extra long stop has undone his chance at his first podium in POC. He has fallen to 5th.
So unfortunate there for Momeyer. He had such a good race going, and it really wasn't anything in terms of an accident or anything like that, just that unfortunate pit stop there, and now he just drops his way through the order as Chad Duncan here continues to try to close it in on Mark Rondeau. It was about 1.4 seconds when he came out of pit lane. Now it's down to about 1.2 seconds.
A lot of moving parts to have a successful race, and pit stops, at least in this series this year, is definitely a part of that. So something for maybe Momeyer to brush up on for the next race. And you're right about Chad Duncan. It is down to about 1.2 seconds. Last lap for Chad was an out lap, so we'll have to watch this one to see how it compares. What about Adam Abrams? What's happened to the Californian? Coming into Sunset Bend here. He's very, very wide. Whoa! Oh, no!
Oh, that's a jump scare if you've ever seen one here in iRacing. That was so unfortunate for Adam Abrams. Remember, he was the car in 2nd place that was having the great battle with John Momeyer, so both of those podium runners now fall through the order.
You're right. I was thinking to myself, I didn't think Rob Russell was that high up, so that explains it then. Bolton, sadly, has had to take a DNF because of that incident. He was the one that bounced off the wall there. Just really unfortunate timing for both of them, because that was just a really big hit that took them out. Chad Duncan now coming down the Ullman straight. Let's watch and see what the lap time comparison looks like between the two of them. And behind them, it's a long ways to Dustin Heindel, about 7 seconds. He kind of lost out in that sequence. Crossing the line this lap, 59.2 for Rondeau. Duncan, 59.3, actually about a tenth slower, although the lap traffic probably did not help there into turn 1 for Rondeau.
And I think that's Rob Russell, our 2nd place in that Cayman GT4 class. So, maybe it helped Rondeau a little bit, actually. It was about 1.2, now about 1.6 seconds, the gap back there. I can also report that Dylan Scott made his way by Daniel Vaverko, so Dylan is up into 8th place, about 3.2 seconds, 3.3 seconds behind Jonathan Kuo. But Dylan continues to be one of the fastest cars on the racetrack, a 158.9 that last time by. Looks like he's getting held up a little bit in traffic here through 5.
I said that they would be lapping those GT4 cars a second time, and unfortunately, it's right at the end of the race. So this is probably going to be a crucial sequence for many of these drivers to try and take advantage of that traffic, to get through quicker than their competition and run away. Dylan Scott up to 8th, 4 seconds to catch Kuo. It'll take a lot, but it seems like he's been quick. 2 more laps or something like that, so I think he has the ability.
I think he does too. And remember, this is your pole-sitting car and driver, so we know he's got the outright performance to kind of go up there and challenge that. And this is actually a fight for the podium in the Caymans. So we got Christopher Marciniak there in the white and red, number 35, being chased by Larry Haas. Back here in this black and orange, number 266, is Bacchignon going to dive to the inside here, but Joe, my goodness, Larry Haas maybe took his eyes off the apex a little bit, got out wide there.
It's a bit of a shame. I was going to say, if he can make it work, it'll be his 3rd podium, although it doesn't look like it's over. Whoa, that's an interesting line there from Bacchignon, still trying to work his way by, and that seems to have compromised Marciniak a bit. Haas still on the cards for his 3rd podium of the season if he could just get by the 35.
Marciniak shallow into 17, and Larry Haas carries so much more rolling speed, has a little bit of a correction there at the apex, and then has to kind of shallow up that exit. But I do think that Larry closed significantly on Christopher there in turn number 17. Let's see if he can do the same thing here in turn number 1.
How hard is Chris going to fight for this one? Marciniak on a bit of a roll recently. Not only has he had a 2nd and a 3rd in his last 2 races before that, he had a pair of 4th places. So he's also been quite consistent out there. And I think he wants to carry that on, although a 4th place won't be too shabby as he sits 2nd in the points. He doesn't want to lose any more to Del Toro, who's already going to extend his gap over him today.
As we watch this, I think that this may be a look down into turn number 7. He's pretty far back, but sometimes all it takes is creeping up in that rear view mirror, and our director is already on it. I was going to mention Jad Duncan has closed in that gap to Mark Rondeau, under a half second between the two of them.
And I'm pretty sure that was just on this lap, because I looked back and it was only about a 10th quicker on the previous lap. So yeah, something must have held up the 11, or he made some sort of mistake here as he's having to go defensive, coming up into Sunset Bend, chops across the nose of Jad Duncan to make sure he doesn't do anything silly. Coming up to some of the last laps of this race. I don't think it's the white flag yet, though.
I don't.
Or no, it is.
It may be. Yeah, I didn't see when Shinichi crossed the line there, so I'm not sure. You can kind of confirm that. I didn't see if Barney was waving that white flag or not, but Jad Duncan going to try to make a move on Mark Rondeau. I'd probably say down into turn number 7, you got to concentrate yourself to really nail the exit of what is this long left-hand turn number 5.
Yeah, I could see him waving it just off to the side of the screen there as they went by the start-finish line. So it's do or die time for Jad Duncan if he wants to spray the champagne today. Mark Rondeau, the car ahead of him, has thus far been able to withstand the pressure and the attacks that he's had from Jad Duncan. And if he can just last about half a lap more, he can bring this one home, but that might be a big ask because something's happened to Rob Russell. He's in pit lane. Marciniak gets promoted to 2nd, and Larry Haas to 3rd.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's the deal with Rob Russell. I remember he had a very early spin, so maybe he just didn't hit the pit window properly, and now these two RSRs going to sneak under Federico Del Toro, our Cayman leader, but he realizes he's got a mega gap to 2nd. He just let him go.
I was going to say, he wants nothing to do with this. He just wants to bring home this win as these two try to sort it out. But for Andrew Chinichi, for the 3rd time this season, he will lead BJ Fulton home. That's their 3rd 1-2 that they're going to see here in Season 1 of 2025. And a victory for the 97 will be something to cheer about for Andrew today at Sebring.
Nicely done from that number 97. BJ Fulton crosses the line in 2nd place, and Mark Rondeau will be the last podium finisher. Jad Duncan was able to close it in a turn number 16, but he just got really, really loose on exit. Rondeau is going to spray that other bottle of champagne.
Meanwhile, how about Federico Del Toro? A minute gap over the next nearest car. Incredible stuff here to take the win, his second of the season.
Here comes the rest of the field here. Jonathan Kuo had a good race today, was really in the thick of that mid-pack battle until a little bit of a mistake there cost him in turn number 17. And here's Christopher Marciniak through turn number 16 down the Ullman straight. This car is going to be your second place finisher in that Cayman class.
All worked out for him in the end. Same thing with Larry Haas, of course, helped along by Russell having his extra pit stop, which we're still not completely sure about, but maybe just a miscalculation on the fuel to get to the end on this one or some sort of damage to repair. Regardless, nice podium today from the 35 and from the 266 as they wrap this one up. In fact, I think they might be some of our last drivers to cross the line here today. So we had a good one at Sebring, but it is not the end by any stretch of our championship here for the POC, as there's the last few cars now taking that checkered flag and wrapping this race up. Momeyer he did wind up with at least a fourth place, but just outside of that first podium, unfortunately. I think we've got our results ready after that one then, and certainly a few surprises out there, but some of them not too great of a surprise after all is said and done. Shinichi, like we said, with the victory today by about 5 seconds over BJ Fulton, who did as quick and as short of a stop as he could, but it wasn't enough to catch up to that 97 car. Mark Rondeau with a well-executed third place, having to play defense for much of the time as Jad Duncan winds up behind him in fourth. Dustin Heindel, I think, had... I was thinking of Dylan Scott. Dylan Scott had another incident, but Dustin Heindel comes home with a top 5. Robert Leclerc in 6th. Jonathan Kuo, unfortunately, a late incident sends him down to 7th. Dylan Scott with another spin right on the last lap, unfortunately, has to settle for 8th. Viverco P9, Bacignon 10th, Baxter 11th, Garamani 12th, and Jeffrey Shulam 13th, with Michael Bolton, our only DNF in the GTE class. Joey?
Yeah, then over to our GT4s. It was Federico Del Toro dominating today. He had a little bit of a threat in that opening lap, but after that was able to cruise to a nice 53-second victory over Christopher Marciniak there in second place. Larry Haas going to finish the podium in third. John Momeyer unfortunately falls down to fourth place. I think that John had a terrific race going, but then that long pit stop definitely dropped him down through the order. And then Rob Russell thought he had second place, but had to make that late pit stop, finishes in fifth. And Adam Abrams, unfortunately, also ran up top for a while, finishes in sixth.
I think that's going to take us to our winner in the GTE class, and that was Andrew Chinichi. Andrew, congratulations. This is your fourth win of the season and your third 1-2 with BJ Fulton. You two seem to be the real rivals this season.
Oh yeah, definitely. BJ's been keeping me honest. I think I have a little bit for him in the beginning of the race, but then he just kind of has this relentless pace, and I just watched the delta not really go up as quickly as I'd like. And yeah, he was coming back at me at the end of the race too. I think he saved his tires a little bit better. So it's it may not look exciting from the outside at times, but it's definitely exciting over here.
I'm pretty sure. And what's interesting is you come off of the real racetrack this weekend, obviously not competing yourself, but what time did you get home and how much practice did you get for today's event?
I practiced a little bit about not last week, but the week before. But then Spring Mountain came up actually pretty last minute. So yeah, I mean, I didn't get home until late last night, and then I didn't do any. I just jumped straight into qualifying. But thankfully, I did some real preparation, the previous week. So, and I mean, Sebring has done so many laps around there, so it comes back quick.
Still pretty impressive that it jumped right into qualifying and performed like that. Well, congratulations on the 4th win of the season, sir.
Thank you very much. Hopefully I'll see you at Sonoma, like in the real world.
We look forward to seeing you there for sure. That was Andrew Chinichi, our winner. Sounds like we're going to be chatting with BJ Fulton next, and Joey is caught up with P2.
Yeah, BJ Fulton, congratulations on 2nd place here at Sebring.
Thanks a lot. Feels pretty good.
Well, it was a little bit of an exciting opening lap there, but you managed to get your way through it pretty clean.
Yeah, it was crazy. I'm excited to go back and watch that replay. It was a straight mugging by Andrew for me and Dylan, but especially Dylan.
And then after that, it seemed like just driving your own race out there, hitting your strategy, didn't really have any threats in the back, but it's a little bit of a different mindset to keep everything clean at that point.
Yeah, it was. I just did the 12 hours of Sebring on iRacing this weekend, and it reminded me of that. Just long stints out there, kind of avoiding traffic every once in a while, but yeah, driving my own race. Andrew showed up a little late to qualifying, so I think he was a little out of position, and he definitely had more pace than me.
Well, either way, I think you did a great job out there to earn that 2nd place. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to while we got you here?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to my little brother who's probably watching it right now. I'm glad that he tunes in and to support me. Thanks a lot.
Well, that was BJ Fulton driving that silver and red number 82 to 2nd place today.
Oh, we got a gray and red car as well. Our winner down in the Caymans, Federico Del Toro, chatting with him now. Congratulations. We've seen a number of 2nd places this season. Were you bound and determined that you weren't going to get another one of those today, Federico?
I was determined that I was going to win today. Sometimes there's places that I've been the fastest car and I haven't been able to win. So today I was lucky enough to get up in front and hold on to it.
There's a couple times we saw some pretty fierce battles have to make their way past you. Were you given an extra wide berth to a few people just to play it safe since you had such a good lead?
Yeah, the start is kind of hard because the RSR went a little crazy and there were people spinning in front and you were trying to avoid, so you got caught from the people from behind, but it was just trying to survive that first lap.
Well, survive you did. Did you relax at all during the race, or did you finally kind of unclench your teeth once you crossed the finish line?
Until I finished, yeah, I keep my teeth clenched all the way through.
Well, again, an impressive run today. Amazing speed out there. Go and celebrate your win.
Thank you, and thank you guys, and thanks my wife for putting up with all my practice.
Federico Del Toro, win number 2 this season for him. I think we got one last one. Joey talking to 2nd place, Christopher Marciniak.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Yeah, Christopher, good to have you here in the booth, and congratulations on the 2nd place today.
Thanks. Yeah, surprise 2nd place. I was just looking at the standings, just getting this one done. This one is a tough one to master, lifetime to master on this track.
Sebring is a difficult track to kind of tame out here, but did you kind of think that a podium was possible today, or did it just kind of fall into your lap for you?
You know, my strategy, I'm totally new at this and just kind of working my way through it. And definitely to finish, you must, finish first, you must finish some rally strategy. So I definitely just wanted to be in it. Was not expecting a second. Great driving out there. Larry keeping me honest. And I do not know how Federico is turning a 211, so I will learn from him.
Well, and what did you think about that opening lap? It seemed pretty scrappy from everybody.
Yeah, a little bit. We came into the hairpin there down in the end, and I just was kind of looking for a spot where I'd be safe. That's all I was looking to do there.
Well, thankfully you were able to make your way through and then just kind of chug your way through to a 2nd place. Congrats on that. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, thanks so much to all my competitors. Great racing. My wife and co-driver Christine. Thanks for the support.
That was Christopher Marciniak driving that white and red number 35 to a second place today.
And that's going to wrap us up again with a thank you to our sponsors before we go. Porsche, there is no substitute. And Top Gun MG, helping financial advisors be the best of the best. Thanks to the team today, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Now, next time we are going to Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. That'll be Monday, April 7th at 10 p.m. Eastern. But after that, we'll be back next weekend for the Grand Prix Legends Series at Road Atlanta, along with more here on your screen. Make sure and check those out. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.